A Michiana highway project delayed for more than 50 years.
With a freeway that kind of ends in the middle of nowhere.
Construction on this road to nowhere started way back in the 1970s.
I had hope until they found the butterflies.
And wound up blocked for 2 decades by a rare endangered butterfly.
Is this butterfly the villain?
It depends who you talk to.
But now, US 31, once the most dangerous road in all of Michigan,
Pray for me, I drive on US 31.
is finally complete.
A miracle. A miracle.
Tonight, ABC 57 News takes you on an exclusive road trip along the new interstate just opened in time for the holiday season.
So that is the end of the highway to nowhere?
Yes.
Creating an important new crossroads in Berrien County for commuters, vacationers, and truckers.
3, in essence, interstate highways, all connecting at the same place.
How big a deal is that?
It's huge. It's huge.
Hello and welcome to the Butterfly Effect, an ABC 57 half-hour special. I'm Brian Conybeare. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll show you how the final piece of this 50-year puzzle was finally put in place, just in time for holiday traffic. But it could not happen until the Michigan Department of Transportation was forced to change the original route of the new US 31 to avoid driving those federally protected butterflies closer to extinction.
Whether it's in snow, sleet, rain, or sun, US 31 carries thousands of vehicles across the Indiana-Michigan border every single day. Passenger cars, massive semi-trucks, minivans, and motorhomes full of families, all headed to their various destinations. But for nearly 20 years, the 4-lane divided highway just ended at Napier Avenue in Benton Township. All northbound traffic forced to exit there, with signs saying simply, "Freeway ends." Orange gates keeping vehicles off the never-opened entrance ramps, something that always frustrated long-haul trucker Jeff Young.
How long have you been driving a truck, and how long have you been using US 31 and I-94?
Since 1988.
Wow.
It's been a long time.
Jeff drives one of the thousands of 18-wheelers forced to leave the 70-mile-an-hour freeway and take a local street, often filling up at the strategically placed truck stop right there on Napier.
It is a lot. It's wear and tear on the vehicle. The stop, the go, the drive line, the transmission, the brakes. I mean, it's a lot more. We stop, go, stop, go, stop. But you're keeping steady. You're not using all that equipment. Your equipment's going to last longer. But with all going down these side streets and all that, like I say, the stop and go, it just burns more fuel.
What do you think about the fact that they're, after all these years, they're finally opening it?
A miracle. A miracle. But I'm going to retire soon.
It may be too late to make a major difference for Jeff Young, but that miracle is unfolding right before his very eyes. After more than 5 decades of planning, construction, and delays, what was once derisively called the Highway to Nowhere is now finally complete. MDOT opening the new $135 million US 31 I-94 connector project on November 9th, about a month after newly re-elected Governor Gretchen Whitmer cut the ribbon with a host of elected officials, engineers, and dignitaries on hand.
This project will save Michiganders time and money while keeping them safer on the roads.
What did you think, what did you feel when you heard this highway was finally going to be done?
I was truly excited. And I was excited because now we have the gateway open where people can come from Indiana and decide which way they want to go, whether it's Chicago or Grand Rapids, Detroit. We are here for them.
Kathy Yates is the Benton Charter Township supervisor. It was her community inundated over the years by about 17,000 vehicles per day, many of them big rig semis trying to connect between 31 and I-94.
Did that create issues on your local roads, dangers, accidents, more traffic than you needed, semis wearing out your local roads?
That is very true. Napier got used a lot. And I'm sure Pipestone the same way, depending on which exit they decided to use. But I know for sure Napier was very heavily trafficked, and depending on the time of day, sometime it became congested.
Right, and that can be dangerous.
It can be dangerous.
And with the long-delayed highway finally connected, she's breathing a sigh of relief.
I didn't think it would be in my lifetime, because I had hope until they found the butterflies.
Ah, the butterflies, a federally listed endangered species with beautiful brown spots on the wings, called the Mitchell's satyr butterfly to be exact.
I was blown away by the fact that here we had one of the rarest butterflies in the world right here between, Benton Harbor and South Bend.
And Nate Fuller knows butterflies. He's the executive director of the Surrett Nature Center off Benton Center Road in Benton Harbor, who studies the Mitchell's satyr.
99% of their life is caterpillar. As I like to say, they're caterpillars with really fancy ways of making more caterpillars. They reproduce by growing wings to fly and mate. Their lifespan is really, each individual is, they're lucky if they make it 2 weeks.
One of Nate's jobs is to do an annual count of the butterfly population. And they're small groups, known as flutters, that live in very specialized spring-fed marshes, with water warm enough and moving enough to keep from freezing in the winter. He used to see dozens of them clustered together, but not anymore.
Once we start seeing those numbers in that less than 10, I've witnessed it probably 10 times, where we get down 5, 6, 3, none.
The end of that colony of these endangered butterflies.
Yeah, just gone. I've seen it in the Dowagiac area. I've seen it over near Union. I've seen it outside Kalamazoo. I've seen it out in Berry County. It's happened here twice in Berrien County.
And in 1992, after US 31 was linked to Berrien Springs at M139, exit 15, the project came to a screeching halt to protect one of the few remaining Mitchell's satyr butterfly habitats, the Blue Creek Fen, that was right in the middle of the final proposed section of the highway that was supposed to connect 31 to I-94 and I-196 once and for all.
Powerful enough to stop a highway from being built?
It made it easy when the butterfly was in the way to say, nope, can't do it. There's an endangered butterfly, go somewhere else. But I don't think that's the only reason why things were delayed and rerouted, but it's definitely a valuable reason in my opinion.
A tiny little critter stops a massive
It stopped it for years.
Congressman Fred Upton, who's retiring after 35 years in Washington, has been working on the US 31 project even longer than he's been in office.
Well, I actually got involved in the 70s because Dave Stockman was elected in '76. I was his project manager and in charge of constituent service. So we started working on the segments. I was the one that worked with the Transportation Committee folks and others, built the relationships, and in fact cut the first ribbon, the first segment with Governor Otis Bowen.
How difficult was this project overall? I mean, it had to be frustrating, the start and stop.
Well, you know what? The earmarks really helped.
Upton says the butterfly certainly presented a major challenge, but so did winning over public support for building the new highway, buying the land now home to the brand new blacktop, and finding much of the money in Washington.
You remember we had the bridge to nowhere years ago in Alaska.
That boondoggle was one of the worst examples of wasteful pork barrel spending ever to come out of Washington. And the $400 million bridge to nowhere in Ketchikan, Alaska was never built. But it also made securing federal funds even harder here at home.
I was on the Transportation Committee, and that's where the earmarks come about. So you have to convince your colleagues that it's a worthwhile project. You know, I was always fully transparent, you know. We didn't hide from the fact that I was looking for an earmark to get this done. And what it does is, it in essence tells the state, look, here's a lot of money, spend it or lose it. And it became a priority.
The combination of increasing semi-traffic on the winding two-lane old US 31, now known as M139, and an incredibly high accident rate made that project even more important.
What does that bumper sticker say?
Pray for me, I drive on US 31. Per mile, it was then, you know, way back in the 70s, they had more accidents per mile than any other highway in the state of Michigan. Remember, there was no shoulder, you know, it's foggy at night, you got the dips and valleys, and a lot of traffic goes, but, you know, Berrien Springs was at one time the county seat.
And Congressman Upton himself even witnessed the aftermath of one of the worst crashes ever on Old 31. In 1986, a flatbed truck carrying a huge vat of molten aluminum south to an Indiana car factory made headlines, flipping over on the hairpin turn over the St. Joe River in Berrien Springs, encasing 2 Michigan Bell telephone executives in aluminum inside their vehicle.
These were trucks that were going down to a Chrysler facility in Indiana, and it would be taking molten aluminum in these big pots that were just strapped on a flatbed truck. And you'd see maybe 1 or 2 of these things maybe a day. He came through downtown Berrien Springs, and the bridge was a little bit different, but it was a little bit sharper of an angle as he cut to the south. And he flipped over and caught a car, and it was done. It was over real quick.
But that tragic accident helped spur state and federal lawmakers to find the money and move the US 31 project forward in pieces.
Tragically, we know some lives that were lost because we didn't have a highway that was going to safely transport people, let alone the cargo and everything else.
But by the early 90s, the butterfly effect was about to halt construction completely, leading to an even longer delay and a complete rerouting of the final segment. When we come back, we'll take you out onto the new highway itself and meet one of the MDOT experts working on the project for decades. Welcome back to the Butterfly Effect, an ABC 57 half-hour special on the 50-year long and winding road building US 31 between South Bend and Benton Harbor. A rare, endangered butterfly put construction on hold for nearly 20 years. But engineers at the Michigan Department of Transportation worked with environmentalists to actually reroute the final segment of the highway and save a key Mitchell's satyr habitat.
Once the tiny butterfly with brown spotted wings was listed as an endangered species in 1991, the long-planned US 31 I-94 connector project suddenly came to a halt.
Wait a minute, there's some kind of creature, some kind of insect that stopped this whole big project that I thought was going to happen. I just didn't understand it.
It just seemed odd that something, that big could stop a project this huge, right?
It did.
Pete Pfeiffer is the business manager at the MDOT Coloma office and has been overseeing the construction for years.
A lot of people called it the highway to nowhere,
yeah.
Right? It just ended.
It was very strange.
Most of America's interconnecting freeway system was started in the 1950s under President Eisenhower, and brand new sections of highway like this one are almost never built from scratch anymore.
This is not something that happens every day, week, month, year, decade, right?
No, I have never worked on a brand new freeway in my 33-year career, never. And I've been working here in Southwest Michigan my whole career. We only repair the existing roads we have. Sometimes we totally reconstruct them, but we're putting those roads right back in the same place. We just don't build new roads down here. It just doesn't happen.
But this long-delayed project is now changing that. Many stretches of the existing US 31 were built perfectly straight, and highway engineers have sometimes been accused of having straight-line fever, trying to go the shortest distance as straight as possible from one spot to the other. But after more than 30 years of stop-and-start progress, those spotted butterflies threw MDOT a curveball in 2004. They actually had to redesign the final 3 miles of blacktop, making a left turn to avoid the Blue Creek Fen, a spring-fed marsh just off 31 where the endangered Mitchell's satyr lives and breeds.
The original US 31 freeway was going to be right in line with I-196. So it was a straight shot right into I-196. So what we in essence had to do when the butterfly situation halted construction plans is turn US 31 to the west and kind of connect in very close to where Main Street connected into I-94, travel a short distance on 94 to get onto 196. Although it's not as direct, it's still pretty darn direct. They just have a little bit to finish up right here.
ABC 57 News got an exclusive tour of the new lanes of US 31 in Benton Township this fall, just before they opened to traffic in early November.
For more than 20 years, this highway to nowhere ended right here. US 31 North ended here And the new highway starts here, and it will eventually connect directly to I-94 and I-196 just north of here.
So if you haven't been on the new freeway yourself just yet, we decided to take you along for a ride.
Here in Berrien County, drivers on US 31 have had to exit the large black and yellow arrows funneling all traffic off here at Napier Avenue. You have to turn left on Napier at the end of the entrance ramp to get over to I-94. It takes about 3 minutes to get off US 31 and go east on Napier to get back to I-94, and that's been the problem for decades. Drivers, including semis, have to get off US 31, get onto Napier Avenue before you can turn and go east toward Detroit here on I-94.
A person in a vehicle or a truck can get on 31 north, connect into I-94, stay in their own lane on I-94 between US 31 and 196. Never have to intermingle with the I-94 eastbound traffic, get on 196 and continue north. It's a really nice feature to this project.
The complex 3-year construction included building multiple new bridges with new signage, clearly directing traffic on how to make those new connections, and rebuilding and repaving more than 3 miles of I-94 itself.
Eastbound is so smooth, and I think people forget how rough that pavement was before that project started on I-94. It was rough, bumpy, real bumpy. You had a big truck or your hefty trailer on the back, you're bouncing around, and now it's so smooth.
There's also a brand new exit onto eastbound Main Street with a direct link to the heart of downtown Benton Harbor and St. Joe, just after the new roundabout put in at Crystal Avenue on Benton Harbor's east side.
And this is the beautiful, smooth new blacktop in the southbound lanes of US 31, taking us from the I-94 I-196 intersection back south toward Napier Avenue.
So now, after 3 years of traffic and construction, all drivers will have a much easier time connecting to their final destination.
Everybody gets frustrated with all the construction cones, the delays, the closures, the lane restrictions. But in the end, this is all worth it, isn't it?
I think so. I think people are going to be really happy once they drive this and say, oh, I didn't know this project had this feature or that feature. And it kind of makes sense. Like, yeah, that's a final piece of the puzzle that we've all been waiting for to finish the whole thing.
So while construction may finally be complete after 5 decades, there are other concerns. And that's where the story of the endangered butterfly takes another turn, into the safety and scarcity of the local water supply. Welcome back to the Butterfly Effect here on ABC 57. The endangered Mitchell's satyr butterfly is no longer an impediment to completing US 31 and connecting it to I-94. But its endangered status may be a warning sign for us humans and the region's water supply too. Is this butterfly the villain?
Right, well, you know, it depends who you talk to. I think the butterfly is a wake-up call that we need to answer some of those questions.
Nate Fuller, the executive director of the Surrett Nature Center at Benton Harbor, understands some people's frustration with the long-delayed US 31 project. But he says those endangered little insects are trying to tell us something about our own drinking water.
Probably over 90% of the people watching this right now, their water is coming from a well. It's not coming from a pipe in Lake Michigan. So when we're talking about sustaining the Mitchell satyr, we're actually talking about sustaining our own well systems, whether it's our drinking water in our homes or whether a farmer needs that water for their crops. How could you ever run out of water? Because look, there's the Great Lakes, but people are having to drill their wells deeper around.
The water table in the area has dropped dramatically over the past few decades, and if the Blue Creek Fen and other natural wetlands dry up, then local wells may stop working altogether.
That's what sustains our lives, it sustains our homes, it sustains our industry, it sustains our farms. All these things are sustained by our groundwater. It's one of the fundamental needs of life.
They got figured out. It took some years, but it got figured out. I didn't think it would be in my lifetime.
Protecting the Buterfly and the local water supply are positives for Benton Township Supervisor Kathy Yates, but she's more excited about the possibilities for growing the local economy.
Do you think more companies, more businesses, I don't know, Amazon warehouses, Meijer, somebody is going to look at Benton Township and these new areas that are now accessible to highway entrance ramps?
It is certainly my desire that they do. And we will be hosting anyone who wants to entertain something here.
And you believe this could spur economic development here?
Oh, sure. Oh, sure, because now it gives them more opportunity to do more things, yes. And the sky is the limit. We have things that they can do with their kids at the beaches, the parks. For people who love the fish, we got the waters. That is our gateway, and we're going to use it to the fullest.
I remember my 6th grade teacher telling us about how much I-94, which was then being built, was going to cost, $1 million a mile.
Longtime Congressman Fred Upton has seen all 6 segments of US 31 between South Bend and Benton Harbor take shape over the past 50 years, and he believes it was well worth both the wait and the cost.
To have a real crossroads, I-94 with the toll road all the way down to Indy, coming back up, you got all the tourism, of course, that goes to the north. People in Holland coming down south, all of a sudden they don't have to get on a little crossroad that, you know, they might get lost on trying to figure things out. So it's going to save time, it's going to save money, and ultimately, obviously, it's going to save lives too.
How big a deal is that for transportation, economic, moving goods?
Huge. It's huge, and it's one of the decision makers for companies looking at this area.
What would you say to those folks who so many times said, this isn't going to happen, there's no way you'll ever finish US 31?
Eat your vegetables. It's going to happen.
And long-haul trucker Jeff Young, who drives the route virtually every week, couldn't be happier it finally did happen, even if he's about to retire from the road himself.
Awesome. Thumbs up. They should do this more often. You know, like I said, they should have did this 20 years ago. Now with this open, it will save fuel and it will save economy, and it's a lot better for everybody.
And Pete Pfeiffer, the business manager at MDOT overseeing the project, says he greatly appreciates all the road crews, contractors, engineers, and more, hundreds of them over the decade, as well as those living close to the construction zone too.
I'd like to thank the public for being patient. We did get some complaints during the active construction on I-94, as well as the business loop or Main Street, about traffic rerouting onto the local county road system just to avoid the construction on the freeway and Main Street. And you know, this traffic was rerouting. It was real evident.
There's been a running joke, right? They will never finish US 31 in my lifetime. What do you say to those people now?
It's going to connect. It's going to connect. The last piece of puzzle is going to be put into the puzzle, and it's going to be completed. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
And it only took 50 years to get it all done. If you'd like to learn more about the US 31 project, that endangered butterfly and more, just click on our website at abc57.com and search The Buterfly Effect. I'm Brian Conybeare, ABC 57 News.